Bueno, este panel es muy... Me entusiasma mucho porque se habla y leemos...
In this, I am very enthusiastic. We speak a lot of the theory on recovering the public space, but not so much in practice. We will speak about how to do it in practice. Román was in the agency, the public agency, having to design urban spaces in Mexico City. Román, tell us about this program to improve the urban design. Well, the program has three elements, and the planning, the ordering, territorial ordering, and then it came down at the local level. Significant data of the planning that we had in the previous administration, 43% of municipal, state, and regional programs of urban design were used, and we worked mainly on the center and south of the country. We're speaking of the Maya train, the Tehuantepec Isthmus, the new international airport, Felipe Ángeles. Those are the elements that will generate a better economy, because there's going to be markets, primary schools, high schools, universities, health clinics, public sports spaces. This was done at the national level. In general terms, we could reach almost 1,300 public spaces in the more marginal areas in Mexico. And this was also, we had 400,000 housing actions, practically 100,000 housing was properly titled. And as we can see, these run along the great infrastructure projects. In this case, two of them are the corridors of the Maya train and of the Tehuantepec Isthmus. There's a regional development. What was the purpose of the program? To be able to have basic infrastructure equipment in those neighborhoods that have many problems. They don't have water, they have no pavement, and the program was concentrated or focused on the public space. This is the most significant infrastructure. This is the basis of the program. You worked with 7 projects, Fernanda. Yes, I did. Tell us, what were those projects like? 7 projects developed in 2 areas, in Sonora and in Agua Prieto. That's a desert part of the thousands of projects. And they make up different public spaces. They may be sports centers, they may be houses for the elderly, or yes, it's the wall, right? Because this is Douglas, Arizona, and this side in Mexico. There are people crossing, many people a day are crossing there, and they had nothing, absolutely nothing. It was quite impressive during the pandemic. There's a linear park. The library was the closest point to the crossing. This was like the backyard of a very violent relationship with the wall. wall. We had to change this. We went as close as possible. The idea was to how could you change a place that is characterized by violence and poverty to give it its own identity, to break away from this feeling of distance. And so we went as close as possible to turn the wall into a library, but he who does not go there because they cannot read, they don't know how to read, and they just need to go to the bathroom. So yes, this is connected to 2 kilometers, and it's also linked to a sports area. The idea, as you can see it, is always to look across the other side and for the community to be able to look at itself. These places, these super horizontal constructions, and for the first time they can look at themselves to have a new sense of identity. And we always used local materials. The priority, of course, is security, where everything is visible. There's no need for air conditioning. The market is always open, and it's excused to be able to look across to the other side of the border. Yes, symbolism is incredible of these projects. What was the impact on the community? Well, they have become places where they can go out onto the street because there were no pavement, there were no street. It's not only to build a building, but to build a community. As you can see, it's layers and layers and layers of a social work, a community work, and people are now the owners of that because you have concerts, you have all kinds of the house for the elderly, it's for the older and the younger, it's for every age, and one has to generate public, safe, open spaces. What was it like to work with architects such as Fernanda? What was the interaction like? Well, 1 year before, there was this big, enormous machine working there. This was the border with the U.S., and there is a methodology. One has a set of questions and questionnaires, and then you have a master plan and define the priorities based on a determined amount of resources, amount of money. And then one has to link with community organizations who have worked with what is public, architects like that. And when the architectonic plan begins, there is a feedback, a very fluid feedback, so that within 3 months we can go to a plan that is execution. What does it mean to recover these public spaces? For somebody who is at the border, looks at that very violent wall, these are all in residual spaces. There was not the idea of looking at just the land. One had to find the right place to do it and to connect with something that was already existing there, perhaps a baseball park, and the library for people who perhaps will never use it, but who would like to use the public space downstairs, go to the bathroom, bathroom, have a place to sit down. And also people who might not do any sports, but it's a place where on Sunday you go for a walk. It's a good excuse to transform the site and to change it. You had 1,700, 1,300 projects. What is your favorite? There are several in Tijuana and along the border with the United States. And then speaking of the Ajico, this has been broadly accepted by the community. Every day, the mothers go and clean that area. They appropriate that area, that space. It's the value added of architecture. Architecture, when it has a value added in the public space, can add something of the appropriation by the communities. And many a time, not only here in the border with the United States, but also in Tapachula and other areas of Mexico, they generate a sense of identity, of pride. And is there any common element for these 1,300 projects? Yes, the architectural design. We can have previous research, and then quality is a way of ensure them that there is greater possibility of success for them to stay on in the next years. Fernando, what did you learn in these areas? I learned a lot how to make it so that buildings have some lasting period. You cannot foresee what is happening because now when you build at a distance, it's very, very hot and also very, very cold, and the workers who at the end of the day learn how to do something, they leave and they are not working in the project anymore. So there's a set of complex things. So the idea is what happens if you don't have much supervision? What happens if there are no conditions? What is happening in the future? A change of the administration. Well, for instance, we built an auditorium. Instead, it's an open space. Instead of closing it, it's almost like a square. And the excuse is to build some public toilets and for them to be interpreted and changed with time. You have many architects here. You have many mayors here. Would you give them an advice as to how to do the recovery of public space? Our advice, what I have learned in these years, is to work in the territory. The public policy can deviate, but when you go out in the field, 70% of my time I will not stay in the office, but I will go to the territory. I think it's one of the very important clues as a public officer to always be outside in the territory. That gives you the feeling that you are doing things right. Oh, me too. Work for the community. The client is the one who uses something, not the one who pays for something.